a hard fall off there.
Okay. Gosh, I hope she's okay.
Welcome in. It's the Daily Puck Drop. It is episode 87 here on a Thursday. Hashtag DPD. We welcome you wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Raise a cup of coffee to you. Maybe you're listening to this in the afternoon. You're like, why the hell are you having coffee now? Well, you can have coffee any time of the day. You know, part Norwegian. You drink coffee from sun up until sundown. All right, episode 87. How about that? 87 of these things. All the damn episodes we've done already. This is it's truly remarkable. It's a lot of work, and we do it. A big thanks to you guys, because you guys are watching and you're listening. We really appreciate it. And I say we, I'm speaking for my entire family. Okay, the entire family says thank you. All right, what do we got today on the Daily Puck Drop besides almost me spilling my coffee all over my desk? We'll get to the Mariners. Kirby not sharp last night. Some good news maybe here with Mitch Garver. Bad news on Taylor Saucedo. We will update you on the M's bet under summer forever. It is starting to, we're leaking a little bit. A couple of these last few games have gone over. And then today's game, which is going to be a day game, is the lowest run total that we have had since we started the M's bet under. The schedule will get a little bit harder for the Mariners. We'll touch on that one. Ohtani's interpreter has pled guilty. Update you quickly on that one. Pacers coach Rick Carlisle continues to cry. And then I promise we'll spend more on this on the Sonics here real quick, because I asked for people to give feedback emails on Twitter, and also just sending notes in there to puck@pucksports.com, which again, you can always send stuff. The contact tab there on the website at pucksports.com, or just email simply puck@pucksports.com. And of course, we end every Daily Puck Drop with, hey, what the puck? All right, let's quickly just get on the Mariners, then I want to get to the Sonics stuff. Kirby wasn't sharp yesterday. They said it had nothing to do with his knee, so we're not using the knee excuse. He was just leaving stuff over the middle of the plate and just didn't look good. Gives up a bunch of home runs. They lose 6-3, so they snap their series winning streak. Their offense did have 10 hits in the game, which was good, but what's the bad? They struck out 13 times. And they were 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. 8 of the 13 strikeouts were the runners on. And Divish pointed out in the paper today, yeah, I still read the hard copy of the paper, all right? 27.1% strikeout rate with runners on. God, that is just terrible. God, it's awful. I don't know. That's what they are. And you have to live and die with them offensively. It's not going to change. They are who they are. I know they spent all this offseason trying to change it, but they're unable to do it. And these guys just cannot stop striking out. And they just cannot put the ball in play. And it's frustrating to watch. It just really is. I mean, I do like the home runs, and solo home runs are great, but boy, they just I love a bases clearing double. You know what I mean? Just anything, stringing hits together constantly, putting pressure on the opposing pitcher where it's just wearing them down, and they just don't do that. I don't know. They keep getting new players and trying them out, and it just doesn't work. I don't know if it's an organizational thing, something philosophical with them, but they keep acquiring different players, different years, and it's the same problem all the time. It's just the same problem all the time, and I don't get it. All right. I mean, I don't know if you guys have the answer. It just doesn't make any sense. Why they just keep doing it. Just keep doing the same issue over and over again. I guess the one bright spot would be Mitch Garver on the road trip a little bit. I mean, it's not great, but it's at least a start for Mitch Garver. Road trip, 6 games, small sample size. His batting average, 333. He's slugging 571. His OPS, nearly 1,000, 995. So maybe Mitch Garver is turning it around a little bit. Ty France is... I mean, it's not just this year anymore. Ty France has been a problem for a long time now. And not sure what they're going to do. Not sure what options that they have. besides obviously, seeking a trade. But I think we can just now say that the one, year and brief amount of time that he was successful, I think that was it. That was it for him. But he's hitting 240. He's slugging 331. His OPS is 631. He's got 2 home runs and he's driven in 9 runs. And I know there's a lot of guys on this team that are not performing well, but this isn't just this year for Ty France. This is last year, and this goes back 2 years ago. Last year he hit 250. Last year he slugged 366. He had 12 home runs and drove in 58. That's your first baseman. Just you can't have those types of numbers for a first baseman in baseball. Never. You can never have that. You go back to 2 years ago in the end of the year for him. August of 2022, August 5th of 2022 until the end of the season, he was hitting 217 with an on-base percentage, OPS of 634. He hasn't been good for a while. It's been tough to watch. And at some point, they've got to find a different solution there with Ty France. Taylor Saucedo, as Ryan Divish told us on Wednesday's appearance on the podcast, go back and listen to it, that Saucedo was going to be out for a while, and he is. 15-day IL. Emerson Hancock was optioned down at Tacoma. He did okay. I think in his time up here. Brian Woo's going to come back for the homestand against the A's. Kirby Snead is up, left-hander, and Eduardo Bizardo is up as well, reinstated from the 15-day IL. Gilbert and Pablo Lopez will get the ball today. It's an early game for the M's as they wrap up their 4-game series with the Twins. I mentioned on the M's bet under Summer Forever, the low run total. It's the lowest run total we've had. If you go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, and we're betting on the under in every game now for the remaining of the season for the Mariners, and it's at 6.5. That's the lowest total we've had since we started this. So the record has taken a dip, 4-3-1. Last 5 games for Gilbert. This is why the total is low here. Last 5 games for Gilbert, and he's got an ERA of 1.02, 35 strikeouts, 11 walks. Guys are hitting 137 off him. Lopez 3-2 with a 4.30 ERA. Did you know Pablo Lopez, one-time Mariner, amateur free agent back in 2012? Do you know who he was traded? He was traded to the Marlins. Anyone know who the Mariners got back? He wasn't just the only one, but the Mariners. David Phelps. I think David Phelps pitched like 8 games, something like that. Yeah, David Phelps. One-time Mariner, Pablo Lopez. So take the under today, 6.5. We'll see if the M's bet under will continue. We lost like 2 in a row. We need to right the ship a little bit because we're losing money. Ohtani's interpreter has pled guilty. Today that came out. He faces up to 33 years in federal prison. Jesus Christ, man. He stole nearly $17 million. Authorities say that he impersonated Ohtani 24 times. Rick Carlisle continues to bitch and moan. So they've lost the first 2 games of the series to the Knicks. Now Rick Carlisle is going to tell you they've lost because of the officiating. Rick Carlisle is not going to point out the fact that in the second half of game 1, the Knicks shot 65% from the floor. Rick Carlisle is also not going to tell you that in the third quarter of game 2, in which the Knicks last night, Brunson comes back, pulls away from the Pacers and kind of really turned the game, they shot 67% from the floor. But Rick Carlisle is not going to point that out to you. He's going to bitch and moan about the officiating, which the home team's always going to get the calls in the NBA. And we're going to highlight something that Charles Barkley said on the TNT broadcast. But Carlisle has sent the NBA 78 plays in which he feels in the 2 games of plays that he thinks and his staff thinks that were called incorrectly. And his reasoning why he's so upset is he says that the NBA is rigging this because it's New York City and that they want a big market team and the small market teams need to have a chance. Now, I know everyone thinks the NBA is rigged. There's sometimes I think as well. Well, of course, the league wants the Knicks to be in the finals. Do I think it's affecting the way they're calling the game? No, not really. I think they admitted that they screwed up, and missed calls happen all the time. And here's the other thing is home teams, Shaq, Kenny, and Ernie and Barkley were talking about this. They're human, these officials. And when they're in the home arena, they hear the boos of every missed call that the fans disagree with. So they're going to start calling fouls in favor or calls against the opposing team in favor of the home team because they're human. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear people bitching and moaning at them. So it happens. But when Barkley is telling the story, he's talking about, on the set, how home teams, this is just the way of the league, this is the way of the NBA, they're always going to get calls at home. And reminded me, for all you old school Sonic fans, and we'll transition here into the Sonics real quick. If you remember, we talk about the 96 finals and we talk about what happened in like 94, 95, those first round collapse, right, against the Nuggets and then against the Lakers, and that era of basketball in those 90s, that team was so damn good. We tend to forget the 93 finals because to me, that 93 team, that was my favorite team. They were young. This is before the first round collapses, but they're young. They come onto the scene, Gary and Sean, Sam Perkins, they had acquired him. They still had Michael Cage. They still had Derek McKee at this point, Vincent Askew, all these guys. And they go and they're playing the Suns. You remember 1993 Western Conference Finals. It goes to a game 7. So Barkley's talking about this last night on the broadcast about home team getting calls. And if you remember that game, they end up losing by 13, but it was a much closer game than the final scores, 123 to 110. You recall how many the free throw disparity between the Suns and the Sonics that day. I remember watching that. I must have been 16. How upset just cursing at the television after every call. Because I hated Barkley at that time, because we all did, right? The Suns were a rival, and then I hated Kevin Johnson. Still hate Kevin Johnson. The Suns that day shot 64 free throws. The Sonics shot 36. They doubled them up. 64 to 36. Barkley himself shot 22 free throws. He was 19 of 22. Kevin Johnson shot 16, 14 to 16. And that was the ball game. Those two guys combined, for quick math, 32 plus 40 free throws. No, excuse me, 38 free throws between those two guys. Unbelievable. Unreal. That's how they lost. Those two guys themselves had more free throws attempted than the Sonics had that entire game. So how about that trip down memory lane? Do you remember that? Was that fun for everyone to revisit the 1993 NBA Finals or the Western Conference Finals? All right, I asked people yesterday there on Twitter, when the Sonics do return, what are your emotions going to be like? Because it's in the news a lot, right? We got the media deal that's going to be coming down soon. They've always said, hey, once the media deal is done, then boom, we're going to transition right into expansion. And there's always just been this scuttlebutt, I think, behind the scenes, and of people talking about how at the end of this year, we're going to hear something about the NBA and expansion. So a lot of people, rightfully so, are getting excited about it, right? We all are getting excited about it. And I talked yesterday on the shows. I don't think people, maybe if you've moved here, you're new here, or even if you've been here, forever, growing up here like myself, you realize how intense it's going to be when it's announced. I will always contend, I think the Sonics are the number one team in this market. And I still think that today. I think the love affair and I think the relationship that Sonics fans have and basketball fans have with that team in particular and the success they've had forever, I think trumps everything in this town. I think there's part of it that, maybe Husky football, I think is pretty close, because I think people in Husky football is one of those things. And I know if you're a Seahawks fan, if you're just a Seahawks fan, you're like, you're crazy. Yeah, but Husky football is like you've grown up with that, right? Whether you went to school there or not, it's part of your DNA, your culture, your family history and all that. I would say that one probably rivals, I think, the Sonics, because they were, and as I forget the pilots here for a second, they were the first professional franchise. And I think the first one will always kind of share a special place, I think, in people's hearts. So we got a lot of text and emails and tweets of people sitting down. I try to find, kind of the best ones. They were wordy, but it's okay. Bill wrote in, said, I thought of this many, many times. And in fact, you and Jim have been talking about it in the past and had me in happy tears as someone who submitted an email, Bill did, to Puckett, pucksports.com. Admittedly, I'm an emotional guy. Ted Lasso's made me cry more times than I can count. But the confirmed announcement of the Sonics coming back will be a day full of huge smiles and hugs for all. That first day the ball is tipped, I'll be a blubbering mess. It's why I want them to play anyone other than the Dust Bowlers. Put us against the Clippers or the Spurs. Don't care if we win. Just seeing the green and gold back on the court in Seattle. Getting an emotional typing this right now. We'll be up there with Edgar's double, Percy's kick return in the Super Bowl for sports moments in my 40 years on this earth. Because that's what I kind of talked about yesterday. Thanks, Bill, for writing that in, sending that email. Again, pucksports.com. Is I do believe that week and that night's game, whoever is against, and I agree with Bill, I don't want it to be against Oklahoma City. I think if the NBA did that, I think don't do it against them. Let's do it against, that's a good call. Who would you want them to open up against? I got two teams for sure, because just for me, it was the biggest rival growing up. To me, it's either Utah or Houston. I know the obvious one would be Portland, but when I was growing up, I don't ever really remember any great, like, memorable games against Portland. Do you? I don't. They never really met. Did they ever really meet in the playoffs? I'm trying to think. I don't even think they ever really met in the postseason. If they did, it was early on and it was brief. So my memories are always, Hakeem, Kenny Smith, Sam Cassell, Rudy T, those dudes, Mario Ellie. God, I was almost blank. Mario Ellie, Big Shot Bob, Robert Horry. I mean, those are like that team. Utah, clearly, Stockton Malone, the big Oaf center, Mark Eaton, all those guys. That's so one of those two teams. Just not Oklahoma City. Chris writes in, says, having the Supersonics return will be the ultimate definition of bittersweet. The NBA has been dead to me since 2008. You hear, though, through the years that the product is weak, the play is soft, and so on. Needless to say, I do not watch not even the playoffs. Once we get our team back, I will most likely be an instant fan again. Not of the NBA, but of the Sonics. It's like your hot-ass girlfriend. She's perfect, but then she dumps you because she's not happy and needs to explore other things. Then one day, years later, she calls you up. You're single. She's single. She's had some nice plastic surgery. She's even better than before. But even if you take her back, there's that bad taste in your mouth about the way she treated you and dumped you to date some rich, fat, bald idiot in Oklahoma City. Either way, I miss those glory days in the 80s and 90s, and I've been looking forward to having my 3-year-old son grow up with his newly revived Sonics. We'll go to the games often. I'll pay for a $19 beer and enjoy watching these boys hit the hardwood again. Hell, Chris, I think it might be more expensive than $19 when they come back. I get a lot of that, and there's some tweets like that as well, where I haven't watched the league. I haven't paid attention to it. The league is dead to me. And I'll take Chris for his word. I mean, when people do say I've never watched it since they left, I tend to think that they're kind of exaggerating to a degree. Do you follow it as much? Oh, probably not. Do I follow? I mean, I love the NBA. I mean, I love basketball. Do I follow the league as close as we did, or as I did when the Sonics were here? Well, no, I don't think anybody truly follows it as close as you once did. I mean, because there is not that rooting interest. So I get it. Do I flip on the product and go, well, I can't watch that anymore because the Sonics are gone? No, I mean, I can't. I mean, it's still for me because I love the game and I love the athletes that are in the game today. When I hear people complain about the state of the game, that it's somehow different and it's not as good, and they don't play defense and they don't have fundamentals, it's such a load of crap. That when I hear that from whoever, I just know that they just don't like the game. They just don't like the NBA at all when they start going down that road. I mean, are you kidding me? Look at these guys playing nowadays. You want to know why? offense is better? Because the players are better. That's why. You got a guy who just won Rookie of the Year who's 7'3", 7'4", and handles the ball like a guard. Chet Holmgren, over 7 feet tall, running up and down the floor as fast as anyone. I mean, it's, go back to Victor Wembanyama. It's just not the ability to step and shoot threes, to handle the ball, to go between his legs, to handle the rock, all of it. How about his defense? I mean, all around, these guys are so much better now. So much better than the players 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Come on. I mean, remember how much, like when Kevin Durant came on the scene, and how people are like, oh my God, he's just a freak. Look at his wingspan, his ability to create and shoot and jump. Now, I mean, the league is not as talented as Kevin Durant, but guys that look like Kevin Durant. It's unbelievable, the skill set and the global nature of the sport. So, I mean, this idea, I mean, I watched a lot of games in the 80s, mid 80s, late 80s. They were scoring all over the place. The athletes now are just so much more skilled, and I know they shoot too many threes. Yeah, because everyone can, because it's a part of the game, and they stretch the floor more than they've ever had. Watch that Pacers Knicks game yesterday was just high level, great intensity basketball. All right, Michael writes in, the first team poster I bought was the 75-76 team. My first basketball was printed with a basketball logo with Tom Burleson's name inside the logo. He was my first favorite Sonic. I've got a Sharunas Marshallonis green replica jersey. God, I love Marshallonis. Yeah, he was so good. I was on a magazine cover that I had the Sonic Skate documentary. I wrote a form letter to every owner, try to convince him to vote to keep the team here. All that being said, I wonder how long it will take the new Sonics to contend. Will the history be enough to give Seattle a decent team once in a while? That is from Michael. I mean, the NBA, if you hit on one or two guys, you're good. And I think it's easier to turn around the NBA and turn around a franchise faster than any other sport, because you don't need that many players to make you good. I think they'll be fine. But there'll be a honeymoon for them, for sure. That first year, just like there was a honeymoon for the Kraken. Shane writes in, the Sonics return will be a wave of emotions. The announcement will be full of jubilation, and years of agony will just about be over. The years of trying to ignore my first love of sports fandom has been difficult, like the former ex that you can't get over. F all these great players that have entered the game. They're all full of whiners, and the game is not what it was once. I will say these past 15 years, which has felt like a lifetime. Then the day will finally be here as I sit in those nosebleed seats at Climate Pledge, and I'll be able to bring my 16-year-old daughter and 12-year-old son to their first Sonics game. I'm able to share the beautiful game of basketball and show them and have them feel the history that they had just heard stories about. I've tried my best to ensure my son only loves the Sonics, but the heavy pull of LeBron and the Lakers were almost too heavy to keep away. But I kept playing the Sonics intro music, showing them highlights of Sean Kemp, and playing NBA 2K as Gary Payton. As I wait for the announcement, it gets harder and harder to be patient. I will never forgive the politicians and the so-called Seattleites that sold the team down the river. But it's our history now. The redemption will be that much sweeter when we whoop Oklahoma City's ass year after year. Finally, hang the glove and the Raymond's jersey in the rafters where they belong. See, Shane throws in there, the game was a little bit better back in the day. Shane, I love you. Thanks for writing in. It wasn't better. It's not better. Not better. The game, it's just, the game now is way better. But I get that a lot. As we mentioned before, there's a lot of that from people, that the game used to be better back in the day. I just think the emotions of that place is going to be phenomenal when it happens. I think it's going to be unlike just anything the city's ever seen before, because it's not like, with the Kraken, you're getting a whole new organization, a whole new sport, right? Something brand new. This will not be brand new. It's an old, sweatshirt you found. Now you're putting it back on. We went over to Twitter. Rob writes in, ownership. See, this was an interesting one, and I saved it because I never really thought about this before, but I don't know. You guys decide if Bob is correct on this one. Bob wrote in, ownership will be essentially the same as the Kraken and the Mariners. They're cheap. It's more of a business for them. We'll get a few really good draft picks, and we'll be left with a sense of hope for 2 to 3 years. Won't pay for good free agents. We'll be left with a mediocre team. I don't know how we would throw in. I mean, first of all, I don't know who the ownership's going to be for the Sonics. I mean, it's going to be obviously a form of whatever the Kraken are, right? It's going to be a few of those guys, but I think it's a little unfair to, when we don't know the group, to start lumping them already in with what the Mariners have done. The Kraken, I mean, yeah, listen, I mean, I think the Kraken ownership group needs to step up and like buy some more players. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I don't know. Sonics have always shown the ability, at least previously, to be able to go out and get guys. I wouldn't compare them, Bob, to what the M's ownership is. Seattle Life writes in, I fear those of us who used to attend games back in the lean years, fought to keep the team, will be priced out for a new team. Transplants who just want to see the new NBA team and not understand what it really meant to all us fans back in the day will fill the arena. I mean, they'll be a part of it, and it's going to be expensive, and that will be the hard part. It's going to be really expensive to go to the games, and it will probably price out maybe some old school Seattleites, but that's just a way of it. Because you think the Kraken games are expensive, you wait till they come back, okay? And you see what those seats are going to be like, and the concessions. I think it'll be even more than what you pay for the Kraken games. George writes in, my oldest son is 15, favorite sport is basketball. I've told him so many stories about GP, Sean, DJ, Dale, X-Men, etc. I've never had a hometown team. I'm so excited that it's almost here. You know, the other cool thing about it will be, the people that have moved here but have lived here long enough, right? 10 plus years, but haven't had basketball. Now they get to be fans, and they get to kind of like grow with this new form of this NBA team, which will be really cool. Jennifer writes in, I will cry tears of joy. The Sonics are my childhood. I grew up on the two of you that you've pictured. And that picture I sent out last night was Gary and Kemp. All the memories that were ours should be rightfully returned. The pain from taking away our original team will never fully go away, but getting a new team is a good first step. Micah writes in, the city of Seattle will feel whole again. Kennesaw writes in, I won't put the horse before the cart ever again. The pain of losing the team and numerous times of getting my hopes up never seems to end. I'll wait until an announcement from Silver or an existing team relocates here before I allow myself to go down that rabbit hole again. I would just say this. It's going to happen. It's not going to be a relocation team. They're going to get a team, and it's going to happen soon. But I feel you, because my patience has worn out, and I want it here now and cannot wait. So good reaction. Thank you for sending in all those emails and those tweets. We're going to be covering this a lot because it's ramping up, and there's just so much more information and news that's coming out about this. I'm also, partnering up with Iconic Sonics and their podcast network. So we're doing stuff over there as well. But it feels more real than ever about the announcement of expansion. And it feels like it's coming soon. And just if you're watching it, reading it, following it, just keep in mind of the media deal. And the latest news when it came out a couple of weeks ago about Amazon, when they get that done and that's wrapped up, boom, it's right to expansion. And we got to wait. The only thing that annoys me about it, potentially will annoy me about it, is that why we have to wait for Vegas to build the arena, because I don't even think they've started construction on the arena. So that's the only thing that bothers me. I wish they could start and just add Seattle as the 31st team and just let's go. And then Vegas can jump on later. Kind of what they did, the Kraken. They were uneven, the NHL, before the Kraken got their stuff together. All right, we wrap up with this on the Daily Puck Drop, the DPD. Here on all the platforms, whether you're watching on YouTube, pucksports.com, Apple, Spotify, Amazon. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow all of those different platforms. Hey, What the Puck, as we wrap it up. I know this is an old story. I don't know why I didn't get to it yet. Snoop Dogg is sponsoring the Arizona Bowl, is presented by Gin and Juice. That is just wonderful. I haven't watched a lot of bowl games recently because it's just kind of annoying. This is the one I think I'm going to watch, and I just want to see the production, the entertainment of it all, what's going to happen. He's going to be on the broadcast. I think it's December 28th. He and Dre have a new cocktail coming out, it's gin and juice in a can. perfect branding. They're going to participate in the broadcast, as I said. They're going to do a halftime show, I think. They're going to do a post-game show, a post-game concert with Dre and Snoop. I want every bowl game now to be sponsored. I think Dre and Snoop should sponsor all of them and just have different acts going all around. I mean, no one plays in them anymore. They've become an afterthought for the most part. And I know the kids like to play in them, but you get a lot of kids that bail on them or they transfer. Let's just make them into just entertainment like they should be and get guys like Snoop and Dre involved in it. I love it. Speaking of college football, how about this? Shout out Cougar Collective and the Cougs. And by the way, there is the expo that's taking place over at the Bellevue Hyatt Regency coming up on Friday. If you want to go over there and check it out. But Cougar Collective has their own beer. How about that? And my question is, why did we wait so long for this to create our own beer, Cougs? What took us so long? The Old Crimson Lager, made in collaboration with Pike Brewery. It's going to be on tap. So it's not going to be in stores yet, but it's on tap at the Marco Polo Bar, which is a Coug bar that's down in Georgetown, kind of South Sound, Soto area, I guess. And then also at Flat Stick Pub. Shout out to Andy Largent, Flat Stick Pub, a big fan and supporter of Puck Sports. Of course, brings you Jim Duquette every Monday. So you can find the Old Crimson Lager at those two spots, Marco Polo Pub, and then also Flat Stick Pub. The cans will be on the shelves, they say, in the fall. And then the proceeds, where do they go? Cougar Collective, the NIL. Genius. It's just absolute genius. Now, can we get this sold inside Martin Stadium? Is there any way we just can get that sold inside there so we can just funnel all that money to those kids? Come on. Last thing real quick. So I got into this and I want you guys to vote. Brad, Adam, and I think this was off the air. Got into, it was not a debate. It was just like a conversation back and forth. It was a great conversation. We were talking about two players in particular. And who would you rather have? And it was a good one. And when he brought it up, I was like, oh, okay. And he made his point. I'm like, I can see where you're coming from. So I threw it up on Twitter. And you can go vote there right now at Puck2040 on Twitter. Player A or player B? Who would you rather have? Now, the stats are pretty even. And the ages are even, by the way. Okay, they're the same age, young players. Player A has played in 346 games. So player A has got a slash line of 272, 317, 474, and 791 OPS. 55 home runs, 196 runs driven in. It's still important to drive in runs, people. 85 walks, struck out 284 times, 92 stolen bases, 70 doubles, 22 triples. That's player A. Player B has played in 324 games. Slash line is 278, 336, 475, 811, 61 home runs, 189 RBIs, 96 walks, struck out 364 times. So struck out more, a lot more, and has played in less games. 71 stolen bases, 66 doubles, 5 triples. So player A had 22 triples. Player B's got 5 triples. So relatively even for the most part, but based on that, what do you think? You can go vote at Puck2040 on Twitter. Player A, as we record this right now on Thursday morning, player A is winning about 59% or so, almost 60% to 40%. All right, it's Thursday. That means it is Mike Garafolo Day. We'll talk to the insider from the NFL Network. Also, it is Rob Staten from SeahawksDraftBlog.com. So we go heavy football here on Thursday with Mike Garafolo and Rob Staten. Both those episodes drop at 1 o'clock today. We'll talk to you tomorrow. As always, we promise to be better.
No shirt, no shoes, no dice.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!